Hi folks, in this video I'd like to show you how you can create what we call page-specific components. In other words, let's say you have an index page with the default slider component in that, and you want to have other pages that use the default slider, but you want different pictures on those specific pages. Well, let me show you how that works. First of all, create a copy of your page. Go into your sliders folder, for example. Find a page that already has that component in it. That's going to be important. In this case, we have the sliders folder. We already have the amazing slider page. Copy and paste to make your new page. And we'll just call this test and leave it at that. Next, I want you to go into the, let's just update that, of course, library, sliders, and I want you to make a copy of your default slider folder because that's the slider we're going to be copying and putting into this new page. Alright, so we'll just copy and paste, control, whatever method you like. Okay, now here is something super important. We need to rename the folder. We'll just call it test slider. Now when we hit the enter key, it will ask us if we want to update the files. Say don't update or do not update. That's important because if we said yes, it would actually link all the files back to the original default slider folder, and to some degree it still does, so we need a few more tweaks yet. Go into your new folder, go into the wrapper, rename the wrapper LBI page. We'll just call it test wrapper. And same with the actual slider itself. Test slider. Cool. Now what I want you to do is, at this point in time, before we do any further testing, I want you to replace the images in the images folder with your new images. So this will help us in determining that we've made all the correct linkages and whatnot, because if we didn't change the images at this point in time, they would still show the same default pics that we had in the original. So we wouldn't know if things updated or not. So let's just go to and grab some pictures and toss them in here. Okay, I've just grabbed some pictures here. They're travel pictures I'm going to be using for this particular page. To make things simple, I've renamed them to the same as the original, so they just simply, I just drag them in there, drop them, and overwrite them. I'm not going to worry about adding new pics and updating captions and all that thing right now. I just want to make sure that when I make the changes in the library pages and embed that library component into my new page, that everything has worked. And this is the easiest way to do it, by changing some pictures. So let's just drag these into the site and let Dreamweaver do the updates. There we go, we get the message. Do you want to overwrite? We say yes to all. Great. Okay, next, let's open up the wrapper. And what we want to do is, see the library sliders, default slider, we want to select that and get rid of it because that's loading in the original, like so. So you see what I did there? I just clicked on the yellow, anywhere in the yellow code here, and it highlighted the lib item down below, which you see right here. You click that, lib item, delete, leave the cursor where it is, go to the assets panel, find your test slider, or whatever you've renamed it, but find the slider page that you've renamed, select it, and hit insert. Okay, and then you'll see the library sliders test slider. You see what the path is now updated, so it's displaying the correct slider. I'm going to switch to design view, and there's my travel pics. Now, for those of you who may have noticed that brief 1 second glimpse in the video about just before I updated that, you saw the travel pics in here, and that's a little bit of an illusionary thing, and this is why I wanted to go through these step by step. Is when I drag my new pictures into the images folder here, they showed over here, when in actuality this particular component was still loading in the default slider. So there's a bit of a caching thing in Dreamweaver when you replace the pics and whatnot that will play tricks on you if you don't follow the steps in this order. So long story short, what you see in the design window may not be exactly what you get in the web browser when you preview the page live, if you don't go through everything and check it. So we want to make sure that we're loading the correct library item into this wrapper page, our new wrapper. We want to make sure we're loading in the new slider. So far so good. We save and we close that down. Now last thing we need to do here is we need to go into our actual slider page. which we call test, and we're just going to simply swap out the library items once again. We'll do this in code view. We're going to scroll down until we find the image component region, which is usually labeled something like image component. And if it's not labeled that, we can read the comment tags, or you can just look for the library sliders default slider, or whatever the original component was. And what we're going to do is once again click on the yellow embed code, hit the lib item down below, click it and delete it. Now I'm just going to hit the enter key just a few times and give myself a little room to work with. Now I'm going to go back to my assets panel. I'm going to find my test wrapper, not the slider this time, but the wrapper we're going to embed into the page and hit insert. Now let's take a look at the links. Library, sliders, test slider, wrapper, test. Okay, so far so good. And it's loading in everything from the new test slider folder, including my library sliders, test slider, LBI. Cool. So I'm going to save the page and preview it. Now what may happen when I preview it is it may not show the right images right away. What you may need to do is actually close Dreamweaver down and start it back up. So I'm just going to, just from experience, I know that, or habit, I'm going to close Dreamweaver down and I'm going to fire it back up so it has time to sort of refresh its cache a little bit. I mean, you can try using the refresh button. I just typically end up closing it and opening it back up after I do this sort of operation. And open up my test page, fire it up in a browser, and there we go. So now this is my test page. I'll just put the whole thing in there with the pics for the travel. If I go back to the home page, there's the pics of the kids. So good. So now I've got two different pages using the same slider component, just it's pulling from a different library file, which pulls from different images, and that's how to update it.